Now let's go ahead and model in some of these details. We have to carve in some of these pieces. If I look at this reference image, we can see we have this piece right here. It's kind of this hole, this area here where we have these HDMI inputs and different plugs and little details, things like that. Right now we don't have that, so let's actually create that geometry. Now you're probably thinking, well, the easy way to do that is to use Pro Boolean or something like that. That's not going to work out too well. I'm going to do this manually to make sure it's done right the first time. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and come over here to my back view. I'm going to go to edge mode here, and I know that a certain amount of edges, definitely these two here, are going to be used to create that geometry. So let me go back to my perspective view here. So those edges, I'm going to select this one, and this one right here. This is where I'm going to create my geometry. I'm going to go ahead and use the connect tool. And I'm going to make 2 segments. Hit OK. Now I need to flatten these segments out because you can see that these edges right here are they're curved, they're pointing up. We need them to be just flat and straight. So I'm going to select this edge, select its loop, and I'm going to use the align tool and align this in the Y. You can see that it flattens them out perfectly. I'm going to select the loop on these edges, go to the align tool, align that in the Y, and there we go. I'm going to grab this loop up here. I'm going to go into the back view, and you can see, oh, it's already positioned perfectly for me. It's already up there on the top. Now the bottom loop is not positioned correctly, so I'll just grab it and move it down lower like this. Okay? Easy enough. Alright. Now I've got some polygons here. These polygons, which I can use to create this piece of geometry. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the first 3 polygons that I have right here. I don't want to select the last one, just those first polygons. So if you have 4 or 5 of them, select the first 4 or 5 and leave the last one alone. You'll see why in a moment. What I'm going to do is simply go to my extrude options here. And this is the thing. If I look at this from the top, you'll notice that when I extrude it, it extrudes at an angle. It won't extrude perfectly in the y-axis. Whether I go with group, local normal, or by polygon, it's just not going to do it. It's just going to keep extruding at an angle. Okay? So how can we extrude this so that it leaves it alone and doesn't make it extrude out at a funny angle? Well, just take the extrusion height, set it to 0, and hit OK. It looks like nothing happened, but when we use the move tool and we move these polygons back, you can see now we can move them perfectly forward and backwards on the Y coordinate of the world space. Okay, that's what we want. So we're going to push this back like this, line these polygons to make them straight. So I'm going to line them in the, not the Y. Let's try the Z. Okay, there the Z works. Okay. And I want to basically align them to this edge that's right here. See that edge? So I'm going to use the transform typing tool. And you can see the Y coordinate is 0. So I'm going to go back to polygons. And there we go. It's 0. Close that. Now this polygon that's right here, this one, we don't need anymore. And the one on the inside we don't need either. So I'm going to delete those polygons. Now what I'll simply do is I'll go to edge mode, select this edge here, hold down shift to extrude it. I'm going to use the target weld tool, target weld that to the end, and then I'll simply select these borders here of these little triangles and cap them, and there we go. Okay, perfect mesh with no problems, and we have that section done. Okay, awesome. Let's look at our reference image here. We also need to create this area right here that is dented into the model. Okay, and we're going to create this big one that's right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that right now. If we look at the back view here, we can see the kind of geometry that we're going to need. So this is what I'll do. Edge mode, and I'm going to select this edge as well as that one. I'm going to connect those maybe. And I actually selected the wrong edges. Let me do this from the perspective view here. I'm going to select that edge right there and the one on the bottom. I'm going to use connect. I'm going to connect this twice right here. Hit OK. Go to my back view here. select that polygon that I created in the back, scale it down a bit. Alright, so I basically have my geometry that I'm going to need. Let me actually take that polygon and scale it up a little bit more, like that. Okay, I'm going to select these two new edges that I created. I'm going to connect them, say, one time. Hit OK. I'm going to move that new connected edge down to about right here. I'm going to select this new polygon that I created. Let me go to the perspective view. Here it is. And actually, let me take these two edges that are right here, and I'm going to connect those one time. I'm going to move it down to about right here is fine. I'm going to grab that new polygon that's right there, and I'm going to use the inset tool, make a quick inset. And then in my back view here, what I'm simply going to do is try to position this and get this to be the size that I want. I think this is actually correct. In the image it doesn't look like it's correct. I think it's some kind of distortion with the perspective or something, but I think it's supposed to be a symmetrical hole right there. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this. That's my instinct on that. So I'm going to extrude this and push it into the model. Not too far. Something like that's fine. So I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Now let's create the other area that's over here. Basically this area right there. Alright. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select. Maybe I'll take this edge here. And that edge right there. Let me see that. That looks like it's not going to be far enough. Looks like I may have to go farther. I'm going to have to go to these edges right here. Maybe I'll just go to these edges and take this edge right here. Maybe I'll take this edge that's down here. I'm going to connect that one time. And I'll hit OK. I'm going to take those new vertices there. I'm going to take those new edges that I created, these down here, and I'm going to align those in the Y to flatten that out. Put that about at the bottom right there. I'm going to take this edge that's right here, select those two edges. I'm going to connect that one time as well, and I'm going to align that in the Y to flatten it out. Move that down to about here. I'm going to take these two edges right here, connect those one time, and move that to the left edge right there of the hole. This edge I'm going to use for the right end of the hole right there, okay? So it's no big deal. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go ahead and take these polygons that I have back here, these new ones. Let me go to perspective view here, make sure I'm doing everything right. I'm going to use the extrude options. I'm going to take the extrude and place it at 0 again and hit OK. And then I'm going to use the move tool and move that extrusion back like so. Maybe to about here. Looks fine. Then I'm going to take those polygons. I know I have to align them, so I'm going to align them in the Z here to flatten them out. Okay, perfect. Alright, so that area is pretty much complete. So let's look at our reference image here. So I've got the area right there done. This area is done. That area is done over there. Okay. Let's go ahead and quickly create some of these plugs that go back here. Okay, so I'm going to create these plugs and I'm going to create this one. Mainly because that geometry is sticking out. I'm not going to go ahead and create every single detail, however. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to create a circle. But I'm going to do it here from the back view. I'm going to create a small circle right there. Sort of imitate that shape. I'm going to go to the Modify tab here. I'm going to go to Interpolation. I'm not going to have so much interpolation. I'm going to reduce that to about maybe 2 steps. That's actually more than enough. Okay, radius looks pretty good. So I'm just going to come in here into my perspective view over here, and I'm going to move this guy to about right here. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this guy to an editable poly. You can see the polygon's already facing in our direction, which is good. So I'm going to select that polygon, move it just in front right here. And if I look at some of my reference image, I do have reference image here of close-ups of those plugs, so I can see what I have to do. And you can see how the plugs are. Let me see if I have a... Here's a different type of close-up. You can see how the plugs are. So we're just going to create one, and they're all the same thing. So we're going to create one, and then we're simply going to just clone it over and over again. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to first extrude this out like so. Make it stick out a bit. Something like that. I'm going to use the inset tool. Inset this, and then I'm going to scale this to about right here maybe. Then I might go ahead and inset this again to something like this. That's going to be where the hole goes. Okay. And I can actually go ahead and actually extrude this in to create that hole. Pull it to about right there. Okay. I'm going to take that edge that's right there, select its loop, and I'm going to push it down like so. So it creates sort of this shape right here. Like this. So I'm going to push that down. Then I'm going to chamfer that. Add maybe one segment to that. And I'm going to do a chamfer something like this. It's going to look just fine. Hit OK. I'm going to select that edge right there, select its ring. I'm going to connect that one time down the middle. And I'm going to push that connection out like this. Okay, so it's going to end up creating something like that. Next thing I want to do is I want to select all the polygons. I want to go all the way down my Modify tab to the smoothing groups and hit Auto Smooth. So I end up with something like this. Okay, and it's good for a mid to long range render. So when you see it from far away, you can see that it looks like one of those plugs. We're not going to be doing any close-ups of this. It's not really an important detail piece. So we're not going to worry about making it super detailed or anything like that. Okay, so now I'll just go to the back view here. And simply, I'll come in here and make some clones. Now I know that I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 clones. So I'll go to 4. Okay, there they are. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to clone them over to the right over here because I know I need more. And over here I need about 4 more. A little bit hard to see in the image, but if you pay close attention, you can clearly see it. Okay, so now when I look at this, that's what I have. I have all my plugs right there, which is good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this one that's right there. So to create that one's going to be easy. I'll create another circle. Try to get the diameter of that thing down on the first shot. Would be a very good thing. Okay, 2 steps is perfectly fine. I'll convert that to an editable poly. I'm going to go back over here to my perspective view. Move this out to about right here. I'm going to take its polygon. I'm going to extrude that out. Now, how much do I want to extrude it out? Well, if I look at the reference image, you can see it has to be extruded out quite a little bit right there. Okay, it's got a little bit of a groove right there. So let me go ahead and try to create this shape here. So I'll pull it out to about right here. I'm not going to get too picky with it. This isn't a very significant, modeling piece here. So I'm going to do something like this. And I'm probably going to extrude it again just a little bit like this. Then maybe I'll inset. And if I look at my reference image, a little bit hard to see right there. There is a little pinhole in there. What I'll do is I'll actually go ahead and model that little itty bitty pinhole right there. So something like that. And just extrude it into the model like that. And that'll work good enough. And if I render this out from a distance here, you can see the way that it looks. I'm going to go ahead and select all its polygons and go back down to my smoothing groups and hit auto smooth on that. Okay, so that's how it looks, and from far away, looks pretty good. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push it into the model slightly, like so. Okay, so that part right there is done. Right, like I said, I'm not going to model every single little detail of the back right there. It really wouldn't make sense to. A lot of details like that, it's pretty useful to go in there and use texturing to get those details out. So only main geometry that sticks out a lot is worth modeling. Any other details that are insignificant, you probably shouldn't waste time modeling on. That can be left to texturing or anything like that. Okay, so over here on this side, I'm going to need some other details. So let's go ahead and see what we have to do. That side has the power, channel, volume buttons over here. So we need to basically create this piece that you see right there. Okay, let me see if I can find a better perspective view here. You can see in the side view, there's the buttons, that little area right there. Let me see if I can get an angled view here. Okay, this is a very good angle. You can clearly see the kind of shape that we have to create. Okay, so that's not going to be overly difficult or anything like that. I'm just going to come in here and let me see if I can steal a polygon over here. And I'm probably going to steal this polygon because it's four-sided. So I'm going to hold down Shift and rip it off. And I'm going to make it into a new object. And it's somewhere inside here. So I'm going to select it there. Pull it out. I'm going to take this guy and take off see-through mode. Let me change the color of this guy very quickly here. Okay. If I go to my back view here, I can see the piece of geometry that I have to create. First things first, I need to scale this down. So the top edge, try to put that toward the top, like so. Bottom edge goes toward the bottom, of course. I'm going to do something like this. Okay, let's go to perspective view, and that's what we have. I'm going to take the polygon and put it inside the model like this, and I'm going to extrude it out. I'm going to extrude it out until this back edge, this corner back here, disappears slightly into the model like so. Okay? It's not too much, just a bit, something like that is going to work out just fine. Okay, once it disappears into the model like that, if I look at my reference image, you can see that there's a sort of slope right there, a little slant. Let's go ahead and imitate that. That's pretty easy to do. I'm just going to go ahead and scale this polygon down a little bit like so. Alright. And with that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let me see here. There's some inside polygons we have to get rid of. Like this polygon right here I'm going to get rid of. And that's pretty much the only one. I'm going to take this edge, all these edges right here that are visible to us. And to get this very soft edge look right there, I'm simply going to chamfer that. So I'll go to chamfer, options, reduce the chamfer amount, go with something like this. I'm not going to go with 6 segments, that's overkill. Probably go with 4, and even that's still a little bit too much. So I'm going to go with about this much, hit OK. And we got ourselves our piece right there where our buttons are going to go. Alright, awesome. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create myself a box very quickly here. And I'm going to use the align tool to align it to that the area right there that we just created for the buttons. I'm going to move this out like so. And I'm going to convert this to an editable poly. Scale it down. Okay, let me look at my reference images. And here we go. These are the buttons that I need to create. I'm going to create power, channel, volume, and these 2 buttons right here, the input and home button. So here's the power button, the way it's supposed to look. Okay, so I'm going to create that here. I'm going to move it up. It should be positioned somewhere about up there. If I look at my reference image, yeah, that's about right. It's also scaled, it's too long, so I'll reduce its size like so. push it into the model like this. Maybe scale it down a little bit more, something like that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clone this guy. And what I need now is one that's longer. That's going to be for the, as I can see here, the channel button is one that's about twice the length of this one. See that? It's got a little groove right there in the middle too. So let's go ahead and let's imitate that. I'm going to go to edge mode, select those edges right there. I'm going to connect them down the middle like so. I'm going to take that one there and I'm going to chamfer it. Something like that to split it apart. And I'm probably going to add about, well, let me just do, I'll do one segment down the middle here. I'm going to take this one and push it in like this. And I'm going to chamfer that. About this much right there looks pretty good. I'll hit OK. I'm going to go to polygon mode. I'm going to select these inside polygons. And I'm going to go to the properties up here. And I'm going to go to smooth 30, but I'll hit the little arrow right here so I can go to smooth 30 selected. I'm going to end up with something like this. I'm going to select all the polygons here and re-triangulate. I can see that had a triangulation error right there. Okay, so I end up with something like this. That looks pretty good. I'm going to say I'm happy with that. And I'm going to clone this guy and make the volume button. Okay. And then last but not least, we're going to need the input and the home button. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use the power button to do that. So I'm going to clone this, bring it down to about right here. Now we can see that the home button and the input button are squares. They're not so rectangular, so I'm going to scale this down to make it more like a square, something like that. And just maneuver it to about right there. Make another clone about right there. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm happy with that. Buttons seem like they're a little bit small to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. And I'm just going to go ahead and scale them up a little bit. So you're going to end up like this. And I'm just going to separate them a bit more. Okay, that looks a little bit better to me. Okay, I'm going to take this guy here. I'm going to use the attach tool. And I'm going to attach the buttons to it. So now it becomes one object. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this video here. And in the next one, we still have plenty more detail to model in with this TV.